Welcome back. It is day 13 of the hero's journey and activating your own hero's journey. And I've just realized that once again, in my very Tiffany manner, I have not got the card ready. So whilst I go through all 78 cards and look for the hangman, I just want to bring something to light with peeps. This is day 13, even though we're on the 12th card. Okay, so remember that the Fool is 0. It's not that I'm getting the card numbers wrong. The card number for the hangman is 12, yes, but this is day 13 because we started on the Fool, which is 0. Does that make sense? So hopefully that clarifies any misunderstandings that have been going on. And with the hangman, there can be many. So I wonder how your Justice Day was yesterday. And how it played out for you. Do feel free to put in the comments. There she is. There's Justice. How did she play out for you yesterday? There's loads for me, just generally about relationships. But I've got some powerful stories for you about the Hanged Man this morning, because this is one of the cards that has been strong in my life. And you'll find that when you do the journey, you'll find that you have certain cards that are stronger for you than others. This is one of them for me, which is interesting because I don't really have much Pisces in my chart, which is what the Hanged Man is. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories this morning, and then I'm going to talk to you about how to activate this card so you get to see these stories clearer in your own life. They can challenge you, these stories, but this is the transformational truth of who you are. You know, it can pee you off at the time, but it's what sets you free. And that's what we're doing by digging and finding where our inner hero is. It's not so easy to do that on the Hanged Man. Things do not come to light quickly on the Hanged Man. One of the stories I'm going to share with you now, I don't even have the answer to 15 years on. But it's when the hangman definitely made his appearance in my life. And I wasn't doing journeys then. I had trained as a tarot reader. I had opened my shop, and actually I'd closed my shop just at the same time that the hangman really activated for the first time in my life. But I maybe had just started doing the journeys, but I definitely hadn't got to this place now where I am, where I can see how they play out, and I take other people through them very consciously and very mindfully. So it was my early days of understanding my path with tarot. Although I'd been I'd been on that path since I was 4, but it was my early days of finding the right path for me with tarot, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's move on, because I'm kind of I'm dabbling around this because it's a bit sensitive, what I'm about to tell you. So this is maybe why I'm kind of hanging around a bit and going, oh, do I say it? Do I not say it? And experience tells me that when it's like that and you say it, you know, you can feel really exposed, but actually something really, that's the biggest moments, biggest things can come from it. So here we go. Let's go back. Let me take you with me right back. Imagine I'm 16, 17, 18. My best friend has a boyfriend, and I had 2 best friends at the time. They both had boyfriends. I was 18 actually, long-term boyfriends, and I didn't. I had a lot of abandonment and rejection issues because I'd been abandoned by my father when I was a child, and they were playing out massively in my relationships. So I had a very codependent way of being, which has taken a heck of a lot of work and still does. But I am happily married now and have been, you know, and that's been a ride as well with all of that. But actually, you know, and more. But actually, I am happily married now, and have been for 12 years. And this is a 12-year card here. Well, we've been together 12 years, married, I think, nine or 10. Can't quite remember. Anyway, so yeah, going back to that time in my life, I wasn't very happy. I had a lot of issues, and there was 5 of us that just went out a lot and had a lot of fun, and lost ourselves quite a lot because I think we were all quite damaged in some ways, and we were hiding from that. And we had some really strong bonds going on. But then the 2 boyfriends kind of fell out, and then there was this kind of apartheid, if that's the right word, to in between us. And I ended up being more with one of my best friends and her boyfriend, and it was the 3 of us really that hung out just as we did. And so we were very close. And then when they broke up, it was a real difficult moment for me, because they felt like my security. They felt like the only rock in my life at that time. And so that was really challenging. And anyway, of course, this guy goes from my life. And as I said, he was a little bit of a character that was troubled. And I didn't know fully the extent, because I was in a bit of la la land myself. So I carry on being friends with my best friend always, and he goes from our lives. And then a few years later, I have a steady boyfriend, and I'm telling him about my childhood friends, the ones that I really bonded with. And he's not listening to me. And like, I've completely moved away from the area. It was a totally different area. And I got to the point where I said, and then there was, and I said this guy's name, which I'm not going to say, in case, you know, it's just, I want to show some respect to this story. And I said, and then there was la la la. And I was like, you're not listening to me. And I looked at him, and he was looking through a restaurant window directly at him. He was there in this restaurant. And I was like, oh my God, that's him. And you're looking at him whilst I'm saying to you about him for the first time. And we're miles away from where any of this happened. That's nuts. That's totally and utterly nuts. So after that, we ended up back in contact on the phone line, hanging on the phone line. And until one day he said to me that he'd moved to a street that, and I was like, I used to live there. And then I was like, well, not exactly on that road, but in this block of flats. And he said, yeah, that's where I am. And I was like, you haven't bought number 2, have you? And he said, yeah, I've bought number 2. And I was like, that's nuts. That's the first place my mum ever bought. And so after that, we tried to see each other again. He had a girlfriend at the time, and they got married and had a baby. And it just, yeah, it wasn't the same as being with my best friend, you know. And I'm sure maybe she had some issues about it, or didn't feel comfortable with it. And even though it was, you know, double dating kind of thing, and maybe it was just the past stuff and the ex stuff, I don't know, but it was never comfortable. It was not a comfortable place. And so then our last communication was him telling me that he had a daughter, and he wanted me to come and see the daughter. And I was like, absolutely, because he was so there for my daughter when she was here, and he was totally gutted when my daughter passed. And was just like, yeah, totally, I'd love that. And I'd feel so much better if we could just do that, you know. kind of like by ourselves. And I never heard anything back from that. And then the next thing I know is that she had left him and taken the child, and he had hung himself in my bathroom. And that was that 15 years ago. And I'm still not sure at all what the message was around that. I wonder if I was doing the journeys consciously now, if I would have got that message. But it's one that just hangs there throughout my life. And that was my first biggest initiation with the hangman. And with the hangman, you don't get the answers easily. The second one was when I was, I was just looking for my book, but I don't have a copy. The Transformational Truth Tarot, when I was publishing that, I went through 18 months of being haunted by the hangman. And I don't mean my friend. I mean the archetype. It was in my readings, it was in my dreams, it was in the readings that I was giving to publishers that were like, oh, look, there's me. And I was like, I know. And it was crazy. I was working in a place in Covent Garden in London where there was lots of buskers. There was one that would hang themselves upside down and play the guitar, which is also the hangman. It's musicians, it's Neptune, it's mystical, it's a little hedonistic and out there, you know. And there also used to be one that would put a bucket on his head and just stand that way. So he'd be standing on his head with his bucket in his head, like you're not seeing it. I was doing everything I could to unhook myself from devil archetypes that I could see around, agents that were wanting money, that weren't treating me correctly, or things like that. I'd ended contracts with them to face the wrath of hell and things along those lines. And I was like, I'm keeping shedding, I'm keeping cutting, I'm keeping letting go. And still I was stuck. And it was about 18 months later, and I had got a contract with a publisher, but nothing was moving. And so I was just meditating, and this is usually when I think you get the answers, when you meditate just for the sake of meditating and you're not actually trying to get the answer, which is also very hangman. And I was in that space, and I just saw the hangman. He just popped up, and I was just like, what is it you want? I completely lost my cool. And he said to me, it was really vivid, and he said to me, Tiffany, you're so hung up on the timing of this book, which was true. I was totally hung up on the timing of this book. I was speaking at the UK Tarot Conference. It was the first time I'd had such a public engagement, and I was so hung up on the timing of the book. I was like, the book has to come out for this date. If it doesn't, it's the end of the world. And of course, I had no control over when the book was going to come out, because I'd given the rights to a publishing house, and you just don't have that type of control. So I'd got completely hung up. And he said to me, Tiffany, you're so hung up on the timing of this book, and it's not yours, you know. We gifted it to you. What makes you think you have the divine right on the timing? Whoa. Smack around the face. But it was the most amazing smack around the face I had ever had in my life. It sent me off into bliss fields, because the responsibility was no longer mine, right? I'd seen through that illusion. And when we see through that illusion, which meditation really helps us with, seeing through those illusions and getting ourselves unchained and unstuck, then we can really be free. And that's when we can really transcend. And that's the teaching of the hangman all over. But the most incredible thing from that also was, as soon as that happened, and I let go, and I was in this place of bliss with it, I went home, and there was an email from the publisher that had been sent at the time of me getting that message, and it said, we're ready to go to print. So there you go. There's a little demonstration of one of the most powerful teaching archetypes there is, I think. They're all incredibly powerful, aren't they? But the hangman, we are looking at Jesus, we're looking at Odin, we're looking at Buddha, we're looking at Socrates, we're looking at all the great philosophical teachers that sacrificed their life or their identity or their belongings or anything that they were attached to in order to get it out there somehow, transcend somehow. There you go. Deep one today. So thank you for listening, and I hope it helps you make some sense of the hangman. Pisces, number 12, stick the card on your phone, Google one and get one that really resonates to you. It's really important. People in my current group seem to be posting cards with masks on. And what we've noticed is that if you post, if you work with a card with a mask on, you do get to see where your mask is operating and why, which isn't always comfortable. So do remember that the picture plays out. Yesterday on Justice, I chose one with like lasers coming from her eyes because I was really, really tired. And I had to work until 10 p.m. I had the YouTube video to do, the Facebook Live to do. I had 7 daily divine doses to do, which is the weekly videos, the daily videos for the week in my inner transformation circle where I do these group journeys. And I had a webinar to do for my students on my signature program, The Transformational Truth of Tarot. And I was exhausted because I'd done like hours of teaching this week on my game. The Transformational Truth of Tarot is now turned into the Transformational Truth of Tarot Game Changer, and I'm training up game guides, and so I was completely knackered. And I chose these ones with lasers coming out of her eyes to be like, okay, I'm awake, I've got to be awake. And I was still awake at 1:30 in the morning, and then I realized that I needed to change the picture. And that was why, and it sounds crazy, but I changed it to Justice with the blindfold, and bang, I could go to sleep. The pictures play out amazingly, uncannily. Do give it its worth. I do not underestimate the power of this journey. And remember, stick it where you're going to see it, the card, so it helps you to remember that you are on the hanged man today. And write your day out. There's 4 steps. Have the card. Ask how, where, what, when. Curiosity. How is he showing up in your life today? That's step 2. Step 3 is to write your day out. Step 4 is to look back and go, where did the hangman show up? Okay, step 5 is to share it below. And of course, there's a step 6. If you want to do this in a group, click the link below. And I do take these journeys live for you, and we can connect and do it together. Okay, happens about once every month to 6 weeks, and not just the hanged man or the fool's journey, but through the swords, through the cups, through the wands, through the pentacles, through the court cards, and each one deals with a different aspect of our psyche. Okay, take care. Bye for now.